and we are very honored to have you on board with us. So let me just introduce you all to our audience for our spotlight session. First one, we have Vishal and Sahil Amartya with us, who are the winners of UIET MUN Fest organized by Punjab University. And the theme for our spotlight session is evolving education content, how it should be. So, without any further ado, let's just start our session. So, my first question to you is, since colleges and schools are closed, so how has this change affected you all, and how did it impact your pattern of studying? So, I'm just gonna ask Amartya first.
Well, the time for allotted for doing studies have been changed drastically. Like earlier, we used to think like, "Ki now the class is going on, we have to focus on class, and after class we can think about revising." But now, when these classes are online, most of the time, most of the students are not actually interested in the class. We want to do something else. We want to watch something else, and then our screen time has just gone up exponentially, and our sleep schedule is gone off the track, which is true in most cases. So yeah, these are some of the major changes.
Okay, okay. And what about Sahil?
See, particularly, I just did my final year of high school right now. So I guess, which each one of us know, 12th grade is the most crucial year of your life. So I used to spend that year attending online classes, and again being from a non-medical background, I had these coaching classes which were quite crucial for me, and I thought that maybe it would have been better that if I would have attended offline classes, but some way or the other it gave me a benefit that I could have cut down my traveling time, which was somewhere around 30 minutes to my center. So the benefit of everything shifting to an online platform and like schools and colleges getting closed. So whatever it is, every revolution has its pros and its con. It impacted my studies a lot in the beginning, but again, you say, as Charles Darwin has said that fittest, the survival of the fittest. So here we are, we've adapted ourselves.
So now you are kind of used to it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. And what about you, Vishal?
First of all, good afternoon and thanks for the opportunity. Like as we all know that pandemic has affected lives a lot, but like as a citizen, as a person, as a student, being specific for a student, like I've spent like 2 years of my life in pandemic now. I did my 12th class last year, and now I'm in my first year of mechanical engineering at UIT. So the thing is that like from the starting, I like to be very like this is completely from my point of view. It can vary, but when I was in like the offline mode, like I was that kind of student like who want to not stick to his academic circle, like always want to break the shackles, like discover a new thing. But most of the time, like due to the school hours, okay, they are rigid 7 hours or 9 hours, and then you have to take some rest and limited amount of time for J preparation and other things. But when suddenly, yes, the lockdown occurred and we are having ample amount of time. So during even my 2020, the JE was delayed and I was preparing for JE. I got an ample amount of time to work on other skills as well. Like at that time, I can pick up web development. I have also done a little bit of graphic designing, which I have improved a lot during my college time. So yeah, see, I am a mechanical engineering student. So if I want to go for in the offline mode for web development, like first of all, it will be quite a hectic schedule for me. But online gave me the time of multitasking. The idea of what I can say, Shanti Niketan, which Rabindranath Tagore described. Now we can have that particular type of things with us. We can explore as much as we want, and yeah, which probably haven't been possible in the offline mode. So yeah, this is the main change I noticed in my study pattern.
Okay. So my second question to you all is that how did your UIET MUN Fest go, and what learnings did you just receive and share your experience with us? First, I'm just gonna ask you, Sahil.
So, talking about UIT MUN, there was this one thing special. I have been attending MUN since a while, like since the past 6 years, if I'm not wrong. And whenever the entire platform shifted to online MUNs, it got a bit hectic for me. And there was this period when I completely left MUNs. It was like I'm not gonna do it anymore. So then I had a word with the director general of the conference, Miss Ayushi Kapoor. She was like, she told us that there's this MUN coming up, and something or the other was attractive about it. That firstly, it was a college MUN. Secondly, the way it was being organized on an online platform, the quality of executive board members which we had, particularly I was in a committee chaired by such experienced executive board members. So there was this thing which attracted me. So after 5 minutes, 5 months, I guess I attended this online conference, and it turned out to be a huge success. Which I'll say again, kudos to the team, as well as it was so well organized. So it was a new learning experience for me, and we talked about a lot of stuff. We discussed about human trafficking and other things, and I guess the level of the debate was really nice, and everything went up to our expectations.
That's nice. And what about you, Amartya?
This was a very unique experience for me, and I would say I'm very fortunate that I got information about this event at the right time. I prepared for it, and during the time of participating, I went all guns blazing. So in this time, we were fortunately not supposed to give any chits. So all of the research that I had prepared, all of the substantive chits that I prepare in advance as a way of preparation, I somehow used it in the speech, and I was always ready to question and counter question. And I was not expecting any results. So before this MUN, I have participated in 4 or 5 MUNs only. So I've received some special mentions and one honorable mentions, and sometime I have come with no awards. This time I was like, whatever happens, I have to move beyond a mention. So that's why I went all guns blazing, and I didn't realize that I have literally come the first position in this. So it was really something which I'm going to cherish for a while.
Congratulations, Amartya.
Thank you.
So, and what about you, Vishal? Actually, you both can mute your mics as when Vishal will talk.
Okay, yeah. So see, like being a part of UIT as well, like there is a culture like throughout the whole college that UIT, everyone have a special place for like each one of in the hearts of every student. Like everyone wants to attend it. So yeah, first of all, like attending it, like it was contributing to the legacy of the college. Like yeah, everyone participated. Okay, so I will also. But yeah, when I got the first prize, like it was really a very wow kind of moment because see, like I have attended the offline MUNs, but in the college, we just get the hands on the online MUNs, and online MUNs aren't that much efficient. Like you aren't able to get the whole of it. But yeah, saying particularly about UIT MUN is that we, first of all, it was so smooth. Okay, we didn't face any kind of difficulties. We got to meet a huge amount of like intelligent and creative people, and we interacted very well. And along with this, we also get to know about like the real purpose. Like in the school, I used to do the MUNs. Okay, we all like just like we will prepare the speech, we'll present some solution. But in during the UIT MUN, I learned a thing that MUN is all about giving real solutions. Because earlier people like just cram the policies and then just present it up and yeah, the conventional solution. But the EB was so much motivating of UIT MUN. They were so much guiding that they made us to realize the potential what we can as a person can introduce a change through on the topic which was given to us. For example, the terror countering in Middle East. We are able to present our own special views. Like we were when we presented the final solution, we can proudly say that yeah, we imagined the solution ourselves and yeah, we worked on them. So yeah, yes, UIT was like a very good and wonderful experience, and which I will be one of the most memorable moment of my whole college life.
Great, great. So, my third question would be, what are your thoughts on new educational policy, and what changes do you foresee on the same? I'm just gonna ask you, Amartya, first.
So the first thing I'm really excited about it is at the primary education level, wherever the person is studying, he'll be able to speak and study in the same language which he's speaking at home. So for some example, if someone is studying in Chhattisgarh, so there they have their own tribal language. I do not remember the exact name. So I guess that's the Gonda language. And if they do study that at the primary level, then they'll be very comfortable with understanding the basic concepts, and then they can easily and transiently come to English, because at the end of the day, if we are doing business, so we are doing it in English only, and it goes for every region of this country, because it becomes very difficult for a small child to study in one language at school and come back and talk in and work in different language at home. It becomes quite a burden, because if you look at Ladakh, they were doing three languages there. Like they were doing Ladakhi, Urdu, English, all three at one go. Now they only have to do one language and do that only, and it will be very convenient. And I'm most excited about foreign universities opening their campuses in India, and India opening their campuses in foreign countries, because Indians are very happy and very energetic about going abroad and studying in foreign universities. So when they open campuses in India, we can experience the kind of education we want for our students at the undergraduate level in foreign countries. We can experience that in our own country. So these are the two things that really excite me. And there are a lot of aspects, but these two is something which I really look forward to.
And Sahil, what are your views?
So particularly being an aspirant for software engineering, you say, so there's this one thing which attracted me the most, which was introduction of coding languages from sixth grade onwards. So that was the biggest factor when you talk about when you're transforming into the 21st generation and entering into a new era. So I personally feel when you talk about coding and programming, each and every one of us should even have a basic knowledge of it. And again, studying that from sixth grade, and when you get up to 12th grade, you'll be experts. So this one thing will help the government a lot. When you learn coding by yourself, there'll be a drastic change in entrepreneurship skills also. That was again one key factor which was introduced in new education policy. Another thing which attracted me the most was that there were a lot of clauses which clearly specified that there should be a change in extracurricular activities or co-curricular activities. Since the past, like the National Education Policy of 1986, there wasn't any such mention of co-curricular activities and extracurriculars. But again, this change will give us a lot of chances, like the programs which the government has been introducing, like Halo India and stuff like these. So this will give students, this will give children a much bigger platform at much higher levels. And another thing which I feel is that the biggest factor of them being entrepreneurship, considering the employment rate in India, if the government currently focuses on entrepreneurship, we have a lot of creative minds which can get to a lot of higher levels. And once they gain this knowledge of entrepreneurship skills, they'll definitely nail it.
And share your experience and share your thoughts, Vishal.
Yeah. So national education policy like is one of the what I can say revolutionary policy passed by our government. I will definitely want to say that it is that kind of policy which will break the shackles of the what I can say the orthodox kind of or like the traditional or the conventional education system we are following right now. Because earlier, people are always have considered education to be a thing that okay, it is this much rigid, it will be rigid like this, and people are all like okay, ye hard hota hai, and it will be hard till your graduation portion. And earlier, also the government were only looking up to the 10 plus 2. We are following that system 10 plus 2. The government was only looking for up to this much on a student. After this, it is up to the student where he pursue the degree, because everyone knows we have done our school board. It is CBSE, UP board, Bihar board, and other boards. But what after that? We are like on our own. We can go to our university, get a degree or something. But now the government will look on us on for 15 more years, like 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Yeah, this is the division we proposed in new education policy. And it look for the child from the very beginning to admitting him to the school and to the last to make him a good professional. Like for the grassroots level, they encourage that the first 3 years should be completely just like the play school, and there should be no examination in first and second standards. Like this will make the students love the school instead of running away, because we know the gross enrollment ratio of India, even at primary education, is very good. So I think this particular change, like there will be no examination in the first 5 years of schooling, right from the age of 3 to the class second, they will definitely make the child to learn in a creative manner. And even after that, from third to fifth, the next stage, sixth class, the students are able to give the examination in a very, what I can say, open manner. They will not be pressurized with the thing. And when the biggest thing which I always liked about NEP is that now we are having freedom, because people aren't studying like just after ninth. People aren't studying; they are just facing various kind of stereotypes. They just cast themselves into a single mold. Like, okay, I want to take science. Okay, I don't have any relation with social science, arts, and commerce. Though I as a student like SST so much, I really want to have it during my last 2 years of schools. But even the thought of, while I was sharing it with my friends, they were like, okay, to arts lele, why are you in science? Though I was good in science, but I like SSC. Like, I can't express that kind of love. But this NEP, just as Sahil said, it doesn't force anyone. Okay, everything is based upon the child. Even the co-curricular activities which are considered okay, co-curriculars mein kafi achhe ho beta, but just study well. They aren't now. There is not much difference between them. Equal are given. All of them are given equal weightage. So people can now have mathematics, they are having this social science, and they can have physics and chemistry. So people are having more open chances of education. And the mother tongue language, this is like a kind of revolution we will be experiencing. Like, people can easily grasp much better in their own language. And the last point I want just to highlight the best of NEP is that during even your graduation courses, suppose if you leave one course, suppose I just study history or some subject for 1 year. Earlier it was like, okay, I left the course after 1 year, then okay, it will be completely zero. But now we're having a credit system. Suppose 40 credits are required and 10 credits is for the first year. So if I drop my course in the first year, I will still having the 10 credits and I can pursue that degree later. So this gives a very, very much big advantage for the students to exit and enter the degrees, because now people are considering dropout culture to be very much dangerous for a student. But now this will allow the dropout culture, and just Sahil said, it will definitely promote the entrepreneurship skills. Yeah, so NEP is kind of a revolutionary thing.
Oh my God. Okay. EdTech is playing a key role in, giving more emphasis on blending learning and disrupting the way students look towards learning. So, and since you guys are students, so what are your views on it? And, since you guys have had different pattern on studying, so could you share an experience that EdTech is playing a key role, in this blended learning, and disrupt, and it is disrupting the way students look towards learning. So what are your views, Amartya?
Scientifically speaking, humans are not visual learners. So we need to be in a state of mind. Our senses need to be extremely alert. It needs to be heightened. So, for example, when we go to school in the morning, we bathe, we wear fresh clothes, we wear a uniform. When we are going to school, if we are going to college, we wear a college appropriate dress. We travel a certain amount of distance, and when we arrive in the campus, we know that this is a place dedicated for studying. So, we go there and then we study. And now we are here. So, my bed is behind me. And now I'm studying here. So it's just like I have woken up, I can come here, I can sit in my pajamas, I can do anything I want. I can close the camera, I can open a movie at the side and do it. So, but it, like Sahil Bhai said, that survival of the fittest. So if these difficult conditions are there, like people are dying just because of lack of oxygen, and which was very tragic, but it's true. So when this amount of tragedy is happening in the nation, we can uh, work on, and we can bear the consequences of a continued lockdown and work as long as it is possible with this educational technology, and hope to God that soon these kind of things can get removed, the vaccines can prove successful for all the types of variants, and that people can finally come out, and the micro and small sectors of the economy also start booming and things start moving on track. But until that happens, we have to work with it. So like, there are no doubts about that.
And Vishal, what you gonna say about this?
Yeah, so definitely, just like we are facing pandemic, blended learning like is the key to the actual quotation. When things stops, we always say the show must go on. So I think the blended technology or blended education with the modern, breaking the traditional way and having the gadgets with us for education, really help us to get the show on. Because what happens? Because just like Amrita say, we are having our bed, we are having a comfort zone. And also one big thing about the online education is that we are free from any kind of stereotypes. Okay, when you really go to school, you have to face a lot of ideologies there. I am not saying that okay, sharing experience is bad. It is very good for us. We are social beings, but it is good. But sometimes, sometimes we don't like a particular teacher or we don't like a particular subject, but we have to forcibly sit there. We can't even skip, or we have to bear the teacher or the other kind of interaction with them instead of focusing on the course. So first big thing about online is that we are able to study in our convenience. And suppose if we are not in a mood, as we know that when we have the right mindset, then only we can study. If we aren't having that mindset at a particular time, then as we can know that online learning can be recorded and the lectures are delivered are later than that, and we can access them at all times. So this is a very big factor. Like people can really progress at their own pace. There isn't any headache of a classroom test. There isn't any headache of submitting the notebooks. There isn't any headache of like, okay, teacher is like sending over me what I have to do. I will be definitely nervous, and many other things are prevented. And but yeah, we all have to keep one thing in mind also. Like when we go to traditional school, like in the offline mode, our parents always say that it depends on you whether you have to study or not. But you know what actually happened? Some people who don't even have the will want to pursue something else, they also get into the what I can say, the sheep's bleed. Okay, I will follow other. But in the online, really the person who want to listen will definitely sit in front of his laptop and definitely listen. But the person who doesn't want, then we can easily separate the people, the really interested person and the people who aren't totally interested. Even this can help the people to differentiate and realize their goal. Also, blended technology help us to visualize, because coming from a science background, imagining 3D structures, even the DNA structure and other kind of things, it's quite difficult. Drawing everything on board isn't helping the students very much. And sometimes online give us the way to have the motion graphics with us. We are able to see, because at the end we are human beings, we love to see the stories. But sometimes the teacher isn't a great storyteller, which sometimes a software can be. So yes, blended learning with some kind of precautions taken, like as we are having devices to prevent the student from getting very much near to the screen and to not divert their attention. Yeah, but along with it, it is a totally perfect, the modern way of education, to normalize education, like to make people feel, yes, it is just a part of your life, not your life is based on this thing. So yeah, online education is the true freedom through blended learning, which EdTech is doing. Yeah.
And Sahil?
So what I personally felt was like going on my personal experience when online classes initially started, I was not much of a person who was interested in learning the other subjects like English, physical education. So I typically used to miss out on those classes. And later the teacher used to ask me that why aren't you attending these classes? So the factor which I analyzed was that it was also difficult for the teacher to maintain a student's interest for the continuous 1 hour, and as well as it was difficult for us to stay attentive in the class for 1 hour. Now, unless and until we don't grab the other person's attention, a communication cannot get built up so easily between the teacher as well as the student. There was this time when we had the smart classes in our offline mode, and we had this thing EduComp and modules. So there was this only once in a week class when the teacher used to show us these graphics of other things like Vishal sir said. But right now, when we moved on to the online platform, the teachers are finding it difficult to adapt to that mode. So it was just being that a camera is being set up and the teacher is just teaching. The thing is that one thing which lacks the most is eye contact. Unless and until the teacher isn't able to build an eye contact, we cannot establish a class. It'll just be like you're watching a YouTube movie and the person is speaking from the other end and you're just not saying anything. So it was upon me. Sometimes it was like frankly saying I used to switch off my camera, eat my dinner, whichever time I wanted. And as I was a non-medical student, so I had these classes for 6 hours straight in a day. And 6 hours on an online platform was too hectic. I guess in this 1 week I even suffered I guess major headache. So that was a major challenge for me to overcome. And again, they're like, since we were in the pandemic and there were like other issues going on, when you say some issues happening outside the world, some issues in your home and other stuff like this. So you have to cope up with all of that. But again, there was this one positive thing that new learning platforms developed. Even we can see that Byju's even acquired Akash Institute. So that merger, which you can say, and that acquisition, which you can say, it paved way for new learning. Because Akash on an offline platform was one of the most renowned institute, and Byju's when it acquired it, so it changed the entire learning methods. Similarly, all the programs shifted to an online method. All the correspondence courses which used to take place were again shifted to an online method, and students could easily find out the study materials online and other stuff. So, as I said, everything has its pros and cons. So, this is the new way we have to learn to live with it.
Okay. So COVID-19, due to COVID-19, it has taken a toll on everyone, whether physically or mentally. So could you please share your experiences or challenges that you had to suffer in this, in your quarantine period? Sai, let's just start from you.
Yeah, so I guess the first wave went pretty smooth at my home, but when you're talking about the second wave, me and my entire family were COVID positive, and that was just 2 months prior to my JEE second session, as well as 3 months prior to my board exams. So whenever you catch COVID, you have to get to this 14-day quarantine period, and after that, the after effects of COVID. So it was just like a 1 month going completely waste for me. And before that, I had prepared the entire syllabus. After that 1 month, which impacted when I kept my books on my table and I went to study them, there wasn't even a single thing which I could remember. And that moment, I was like the most pressurized. I was like, I don't know what to do. My first GE, I got somewhere around 92 percentile. I thought that I'll improve it, I'll get it somewhere to 98, 99. But at that moment, all hopes, like, they seemed to lost at that time. Also, there was this one thing that since the session had stretched up till May, June, so again, the coaching classes, they weren't focusing on us much. They were like, they got new batches, they focus on them, and we had to study everything on our own. Teachers, again, on the other hand, they weren't even like, as they were focused in the starting of the session, they weren't as focused on us at that moment. So we had to do everything on our own at that moment. So yes, COVID impacted us a lot, and also being a social worker for this cause, there was this one thing along with studies which I had to balance out working for an NGO. We used to verify leads every day. We used to send people COVID relief materials. We used to go to their homes. So there were these two things going on at the background for me, because at the end we know Jaan hai to jahan hai. So this was this entire scenario at that moment.
Vishal, what what were your experience?
Yeah, so as I just said that COVID is still a very much like what can I say, frustrating, stressful, and like millions of people have lost their life. So personally, personally, I'm a person with a very, like, what I can say, very poor immunity. So yeah, when the COVID started and we got to know about, like, everyone was searching what is COVID and how it impact. So the biggest thing is that poor immunity people are most prone. Though like after taking a lot of precautions, I haven't caught COVID or like come in contact with it. But the precaution and the fear, which continuous fear, which I'm still living, that okay, I have a weak immunity. What happens? Like, because as you can see, when a waves get over, people get out a little bit. They wear mask and they think, okay, like now we can go to vacations. The cases aren't that much. But throughout the 2 years, I haven't moved like not in a once in a while from my home. So you can imagine living at a single place, confined in four walls, just with internet connectivity. Like I can say, I'm barely connected to the world. But if it was a physical world, like then we'll be totally cut off. And this is like very much painful at a mental level also. Because earlier, okay, being a, what I can say, introvert person or an ambivert person, it is good. We don't like much company of the people. Yeah, we are happy in our own bubble. But after some time, when you realize, okay, you didn't haven't even seen the market in the last 6 months, what has happened, your relatives, like how they are. And even some of my relatives like lost their life. I even couldn't attend the funerals and other kind of stuff and the other ceremonies. That was really very much painful according to the emotional state. Also, just like Sahil said, on an academic basis, also it really cut it a toll because see what happened in 2020 in January. I gave my first JE attempt. It was good because everything was offline and we are in a, like what I can say, in a particular routine. But suddenly there was COVID and it was delayed up to the month of August. So yeah, we really become lazy a lot. I remember my percentile dropping from straight 95 to, I guess, what I can say, in the second session I just scored up to only 88. So yeah, the first session I can truly say saved me just because I'm attending it offline and like there was a constant routine. But definitely lockdown made us lazy in very much better, according to a science student who is giving JE or other competitive exam. It made it us lazy and we definitely lost over the syllabus a lot. Also, like, okay, I got the college, but even after that, being a mechanical engineering student, we have a lot of things in the college, the labs, the hands-on workshop, the various session. Even I didn't even tell, like, I never visited Chandigarh in my life. I haven't seen even my college. See, you can imagine the feeling of studying in a like just on video calls. We are paying for video call. I'm paying like a 100k for my education just for video calls. You can imagine that feeling. And we aren't able to get much of the whole grip. We can, yeah, what we can do is just practice the coding part. Okay, being a mechanical engineering student, I can do a little bit of coding. Okay, just like I like it. But what about the other students? What about our own curriculum? The welding part, the automation part, the assemblies which we usually see, it has been totally affected for especially the core branch student, electrical, mechanical. Also, one more thing is that COVID also make us to like it made us our chances to become more independent, because if it was normal, we definitely have moved to the city where we have to study. We definitely have to live our own, because as Indian culture says, the children like are like most pampered thing. Like their parents took every single care of their needs. But college, that particular time when you really move out from your home, you become independent. But COVID snatched all the possibilities, and even I can say that discipline part is also lacking due to COVID, because we all are like having very much troubled sleep routine now, because everyone is like binging to Netflix and other kind of things. So yeah, these are some things which COVID has taken or snatched away from these things, the independence which we can enjoy and the other hands-on experience.
Okay, Amartya.
Actually, my experience in the past 1.5 year has been too disastrous to narrate in an online platform. But thankfully, all of my loved ones are alive. I am alive personally. I was when I got infected with COVID, that passed away smoothly. I got negative in 15-16 days. It was all right, but 10 days later, I had a fever, and that fever ran up to 106 degree Fahrenheit. And then I was hospitalized in the ICU. I was there in the ICU for 6 days. And what had actually happened, that my antibody count was so high that it started attacking my organs. So I survived, and I am here. I am safe. Then my father got infected. My mother got infected. They were also suffering a lot. And the fact that we are alive, we are happy in our own space, that is more than enough for me. And the fact that I have took the opportunities later, I have, as I said, I came first in this event, so that also means a lot to me. I'm grateful. But yeah, it has taken a lot away from me. I was a gym going man. I used to go to gym every like 6 days a week. I used to work out for 1.5 hours daily, like just Sunday if you leave that. And I was doing great. So it took a lot away from me. I was fortunate enough to go to my college for 1 year. We did all the college fun that people usually do. I'm in third year now, and it seems that I'll be only going to my college before final year, and I might not even go to my college before the final year as the situation is pursuing. 2 years of my degree is gone, but yeah, I'm alive, and that's great.
Okay. As NEP is emphasizing on the importance of languages other than English, and it will lead to improve reading habits amongst people across the country. So, what are your views on studying in the local language? I know that some of you, have answered this question before, but just give us some brief. So, Sahil, let's just start from you.
Definitely. So yes, as even Amartya sir said that NEP has emphasized a lot on learning in local languages, but on the other hand, it has also emphasized on learning foreign languages too. I feel that there should be a freedom to do whatever you feel like. Particularly, you're talking about when you talk about when you go to South India. So there's this thing that people are more comfortable speaking in their native language as well as learning in their native language. And when you move a little up and you move towards the east, we have northeastern states. Same go over there. There's this culture still in the central India and the North India that we're okay with English and we can talk in Hindi. But again, a lot of schools, a lot of people have this mindset that our kids should go to an English medium school, not even thinking about the fact that whether is that child capable of learning at such a young age in an English school or not. Just because the parent wants, the child cannot be able to learn it. Because at the end, you only spend 7 to 8 hours of your day in the school, but you spend the rest of the time at your home. So the culture has to be same. But when you talk about other languages, there was this thing we also had French in our school, but earlier, what the education policy was, the more focus was on learning stuff and just writing it on a piece of paper. But now, what it is being focused on, that other languages which we'll be focusing on will emphasize more on speaking rather than just learning and writing it on a piece of paper. Because frankly saying, I learned French for 4 years in my school and I don't even remember a single thing apart from how to give my introduction. So that's it, all I know. So this is the one thing which will help students a lot. Again, all of us have gone through this, but we expect the best for the other generations, the other children who are about to come to our age. And again, this will be a plus point for them if they're applying to foreign colleges. And if this thing goes, learning in your native language and then adapting as you want, it'll be a boost for all these students.
Vishal, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts about this?
So this special part of NEP about language, like it is a quite of what I can say controversial issue. The topic, the thing which NEP wants about the national or the local language to be taught. NEP has just not made it mandatory, and NEP just say that if the school find it convenient or like up to where as possible, they have used these particular words, up to where it is possible, they can teach, like basically they have decided a particular class 5, they can teach the children in their local language. Now the benefits of this, people are able to easily catch up thing in their native languages. Okay, that is good, we get it. Second is that people generally who knows suppose a person knows Kannada, he knows English, he knows suppose Hindi. Okay, then he generally have a better, what I can say, development of the brain, and he is able to grasp things better than a duolinguistic person. A trilinguistic or a quadrilinguistic person has more benefits to the people who just know only one or two languages. But the thing is that the main kind of disadvantage under this is that though government is trying to have a, what I can say, a thread of unity throughout the whole country, that yes, we support the cultural diversity and now we are integrating it in the curriculum. But the first thing is that all the books can't be published in the native language. It will be a very much burdensome task. The first thing is that. And the other thing is that it will definitely increase the class divide. Because still, okay, it is allowed. Suppose a person living in Punjab is learning up to 5th or 8th class Punjabi. So what will happen? His mind, as we know that a person's mind is just like a blank slate in his childhood. He will interpret everything in Punjabi only, which will definitely give a boost to him. But on the one side, he will definitely lag with the other people, because still we have to accept it. People who knows English have a little bit of edge in using the technology, using the web services, even in the introduction, in the interviews, and like say in all walks of life. This is what the scenario in India right now. So if a person is a very much talented person, but he's not only Kannada, and he suddenly like, okay, now from 9th class, the previous kind of method, which in our parents' experience, now English will be introduced later on, and then the difficulty will arise. So definitely this will increase the class divide. So I think what the government can do is they have to remove the stigma of English, or either they have to change what I can say, the keyboards, the web language, the technologies, just like China, Germany, and Japan do. They have everything in their own language. or they used to teach their student English, but that happens very much rare. The other thing is that there will be a very difficult scenario for those students whose parent job is not much that much stable. For example, I am living in Andhra Pradesh. Suppose my father is posted there. I am learning their native language, and suddenly I will go to Gujarat. So it will be a very tough job for me to pick up the language, because as NEP suggests, people can opt for the native language. There is Gujarati up to 5th class or 8th class, or as they wish, they can continue to 12th class. But what happen if I don't get comfortable with Gujarati, though their curriculum is in English, but they always prefer Gujarati. So yeah, there is a lot of things about this language sector which need to be improvised, especially this kind of scenario, which is quite conflicting, because learning a particular language, though definitely takes time, just like Sahil said, he studied French, but after that, we aren't becoming a conversationist in it. We are not only using Hindi or English at max. But if the school really makes us conversationist in these languages, then it is an aid. Otherwise, it will be a total disaster for the students. Definitely a burden.
Okay, and Amartya?
I am no expert in sociology or civilizational studies, but I do understand that every functioning civilization has its own set of literatures, its own sets of documents and plays, so that can be read by the people of that civilization if they know that particular language. Like, not many of us have heard about Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, apart from the fact that he is one of the most famous writers of Hindi in the country. Like, this is just one person in one language, but there are many examples of marvelous literature present in variety of languages of our country, including the 22 official languages of the country, and also the languages which are not part of the official languages of India. And as Vishal Bhai said, that if you have to change languages, it will be a very difficult task indeed. But the rider here comes is, like, scientifically speaking, that if a person learns up till the primary level in his own language, there has been a study conducted in Africa. Like, in Africa, they also have a lot of indigenous cultures, indigenous languages. I'm not able to remember the country exactly, but I do remember the fact that if the student who has learned in the primary level in their own language and then transited to English, their understanding of English, their understanding of phonetics, and their understanding of all the knowledge in English is very, at a higher level than compared to those who have started learning in English and throughout learned everything in English. So it's backed by scientific research. I do not remember the name of the paper. I won't be able to present it to you if you ask me right now, but I have definitely read that. And I definitely agree with the fact that there should be a choice to the person. Like Vishal Bhai said, if a person's father has a job where they have to continuously shift, then they can take it as a choice to have a language that is studied nationwide. For example, if you put your child in a Kendriya Vidyalaya will have the same syllabus whether you are being taught in Srinagar or you have been taught in Madurai. Okay, so that's what I feel is, like, there should be a certain amount of choice, because then it becomes a part of an identity politics which is not at all required, and it becomes a pretty ugly. The aim here is to teach people and make more and more people comfortable in learning in a particular language. So I think it will be beneficial, but its execution will have to be impeccable for it to benefit the masses.
Let us know about your future plans, and what are your ambitions in your life. What do you want to become? Let's just start from Amartya.
I want to become a blockchain developer. I'm currently learning web development. I'm a computer science engineering student, so I want to have a career in blockchain.
And Vishal, what are
See, like as from an engineering perspective, like being a mechanical engineering student, yeah, definitely I'm targeting the GATE exam, and through it I really want to get into the PSUs, because I really feel that there is a need of the young minds, because people are definitely attracted towards the private sector, though PSUs are a little bit tough to get in. But yeah, we require the new innovation and the younger minds in them, especially if I'm saying about the oil and petroleum PSU handling, because in the recent times we can say there is a decline in their services and the quality of them handling stuff, because we can see the surge in the oil price because we aren't good at the exporting as well as the processing part. So yeah, I will definitely looking to join the PSUs after my graduation, and after that, if circumstances allow me, I will definitely get into the civil services.
And Sahil, what are your ambition?
So basically, I've just gotten to like just 1 week back, got my offer letter from this Japan International University of Technology. So I'll be pursuing software engineering over there. I have this ambition of mine creating a startup of mine. It'll be a consultancy service, typically based on using innovative methods and transforming as per the requirement of the client. So it will be like more into software sector, as well as I'll be looking for more things. So I just want to develop something of my own. I am not that kind of a person who will work as a 9 to 5 job. I just have some innovative ideas, and I'll think I'll go with that.
That's great. So that's it. These were the questions that I had to ask all of you. And it was such a delight talking to you.